Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Obviously, with the new developments in Ukraine, the subject should render a lot of comments and interpretations and analysis. Since the events are occurring as we speak, um, I will not make an analysis of media reports, and the reason why is they're all going to push the turbo button and they will all lie or exaggerate so it the news will fit their narrative, and both sides or whatever sides, it's an abundance of exaggerations and misinterpretations, and more than that. So I will not get into that today. I will wait until a little bit things settle down, and then I will pick certain articles and I will discuss. In the meantime, I would like to have a different kind of video, which is I will use analogies. Analogies to, obviously, an analogy is not an exact uh, exemplification of an example that occurred that would fit exactly with the current events, but something that would make us maybe ask questions from a different perspective than the one or the perspectives that we were fed by the mass media in its entirety. So I will took some notes here. I'm going to use three examples. The first example is the 1846 1848 American Mexican War. I will make a little history over there. So I will talk about Texas. Texas belonged to Mexico. The Mexican government allowed or requested um, the Americans to populate parts of Texas, which the Americans allowed, to have Americans come and populate parts of Texas, like farmers and so on. So after a while, um, the Americans were Protestants and mostly, and the other ones, the Mexicans, were Catholic. So a little, some little frictions came between the Spanish slash Mexican residents of Texas with the Americans, the immigrants or settlers from uh, United States of America. The Mexican government, I think it had its own sins, and it intervened in behalf of the Mexican population. The Americans fomented their politics and their influences into the American settlers over there, and eventually there were some issues where between the American population and the Mexican population. The U.S. who intervened helped its population in Texas. There were some problems with the demarcation of Texas. The Americans thought that it was like the border, it was by Rio Grande. The Mexicans thought it was north of Nueces, I think that's how you pronounce it, Nueces River. And then they both sent troops over there, and then they shot at one another. President Polk, stated that American President Polk, he stated, that American blood was spilled on American soil by Rio Grande, which was disputed. So they started a war, real war, bam, 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 after Texas gained independence and so on. And Americans did not stop there. They went straight to Mexico City, expanded their country. They, the Mexicans uh, lost the war. The Americans took California, Nevada, Utah, New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, parts of obviously Texas, parts of Oklahoma, Kansas, Wyoming. They paid $15 million then, which is $450 million in current money about. So that was the all intervention was because of their American intervention was because their connationals, the Americans living in Mexico, which was Texas part of Mexico, they have to intervene because the Mexican government was mistreating the Americans living in Mexico, which is Texas part of Mexico at that time. So Americans attacked and it fomented, independence of Texas in the behalf of their connationals or Americans. And then they took over. They took the rest of the states I was mentioning. I think half of Mexico was taken by the United States due to that, and then they pay them. You know, I want your house. It's not for sale. Here is some money. Shut the hell up. Move on. So basically, something like that. The second example I would like to mention is the Japanese attack of Pearl Harbor on 7th of December 1941. Now we know that there was no reason, this is how the books tell us, no reason why the Japanese, uh, unprovoked, that's the word, unprovoked attack. It's just because the Japanese were bad, evil, wanted to expand, and like Hitler, master the world, Asia and Pacific and so on. Well, it's not quite like that. You have to look back a little bit and what happened in the East Asia with the Japanese. Japan doesn't have national resources. It's a very poor country from that, and with that respect, it doesn't have it. So they had to make all kind of treaties with the countries around, spheres of influence, and so on. United States government, uh, through certain declarations and their interest in East Asia, they forbade Japan to make business with certain countries in that area and get resources from them. So it's basically is America tells is like that your neighbor comes and tells you, "Oh, you're hungry. Well, you can't go to shop at that store. You can't go to shop at that store. You can't go to shop at that store because those are kind of my stores where I shop. So what is that guy gonna do? Probably punch you in the face. Well, take the 7th of December 1941, something like that. I'm not gonna get into the things that the facts that United States decoded the Japanese, secret communication and so on. We know that. Did they know what the date and when it happened? Why did they keep the fleet in Pearl Harbor? Like that, uncovered. These are other parts of the conversation. The thing, what I'm trying to say, it was Americans and Japanese negotiated and the Americans pushed the Japanese out of the sphere of the influence and being able to get raw materials from those areas, Philippines and Indochina and that area over there. They invaded Manchuria, China, Manchukuo. They turned the Manchukuo as a different. They were expansionists, that's for sure. But then Americans blocked their expansion, not military necessarily, it was economic. And these guys said, you know what? We're going to eliminate you guys because you don't let us expand economically and so on. So I know I'm ignoring a lot of details. I don't think the details would really matter in what I'm trying to expose here. It could, but that's not the point to discuss how many ships were sank in Pearl Harbor and how many airplanes came and how many bombs. No, and that's not. And then it's the famous speech of Franklin Roosevelt. A day that will live in infamy. So that's the second example. And the third example that I want to use actually was before this one. Now, obviously, it sounds very bad, and the Germans started the Second World War attacking Poland. What happened? What was the reason? One of the reasons. Well, the Germans, after the First World War, well, Poland did not exist. It became back, I mean, not exist for about, what, 200 years before the First World War. And after the First World War, a country was created for Poland. from territories, old ancient territories and territories taken from Germany, taken from uh, Russia, if you want to take in other areas. So that's how Poland was formed there. Obviously, there were some grievances, and there were a lot of German population in Poland, especially in Dansk or Danzig, which is the north part of Poland, and the Germans tried to, you know, that's our population. Give us a corridor so we can go and have them, communicate with us and be part of us. Now, that could be interpreted in many ways. The allegedly or not allegedly, factually, because I'm not alleging stuff here. The Poles ruffled up a little bit the Germans in the Gdansk area and or Danzig. And the Germans again cried, "What the hell are you guys doing? Those are our people. 90 some percent over there are Germans. A kind of independence, autonomy, something within Poland, and so on." The Polish did not want to do that. They tried to. The Germans and the Poles. They had many meetings trying to discuss the situation. Well, the Poles were backed by two guys, which is Great Britain and France, who gave Poland assurances that if the Germans want to do something, they will intervene. So they gave them guarantees. So the Poles did not, according to some interpretations, did not um, um, negotiate with the Germans in good faith. That means they always said, no, we're not going to do it. We'll see you next week. No, we're going to not going to do it now. So they postpone. And then the Germans said, you know what? We asked you for that. We asked you for that. You don't want to even talk with us sincerely. We give you an ultimatum. Was that right? Was it wrong? I don't know. This is the fact. The Poles went and asked their friends or the masters, Brits and the French, and they say, let them be. If they attack you, we're going to back you because, they invade your country. 1st of September 1939, the Germans attacked them, started invading. Great Britain declared war on Germany. France waited, I think, 2 days or so. They were like, what should we do? And then the French declared war. So that's when the Second World War started. Before that, it was Germany versus Poland, and then you have these guys jumping in. So that's a world war right there. Now, what's strange is that in the same time when Germans invaded, the Soviet Union invaded from the east, Poland. So the question is, why didn't these defenders of freedom and sovereignty of Poland, they didn't declare war to Soviet Union, being principled countries and principled people. I mean, wasn't that defending the borders of Poland to anybody who would invade? Well, Germans invade, they declared war. But when the Soviet Union invaded, they didn't declare war on Soviet Union. Do not give me that argument. Oh, there are two of them. You were afraid. Well, if you stand by principles that you actually verbalize, you say, "Hey, we entered because Poland's borders were violated." Well, were violated by two. So you, as a principal nation and leaders, you would declare war on both. So that tells me and other historians that actually Germany was actually zoomed in to do this, not Soviet Union. So Soviet Union had some leaders that were very accepted by these countries, including Uncle Joe, or which is Joseph Stalin. So I don't know if you can see these three examples with minorities living in another country, debates, discussions in bad faith by some parts, strictly invading, and then all these pretense of ideals being just my interest, and I have something to do with you. I'm gonna take care of you, not this guy. So put that in the context of today's situation in Ukraine, and think about it. Think about it. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be a just man or a woman. Ciao.